The Immortal John Hancock here, and today I'm discussing the Nintendo Switch and its current life cycle. Is it still at midpoint? You know, the conversation comes up every now and then about how long a console or handheld stays on the market, and every situation is different. I'm going to discuss my thoughts, my opinions, kind of give some facts about Nintendo hardware and other competing hardware, and is it still going to stay around another 4.5 years? Recently, the Nintendo's boss at a corporate management policy meeting was stating that the Nintendo Switch is still at mid-cycle. That can be debated on what that means. The truth is the Nintendo Switch is nearing 5 years old. In March, it's going to be 5 years. A lot of people kind of were looking at that clock and that calendar date and saying, hey, at 5 years it's gonna decline in sales. Who knows? Okay, we don't know the future, but we can look at some facts and stats and kind of give our thoughts about it. This is just my opinion. It's not a crystal ball. It's just what I think is going to happen. We'll see. So looking at those stats, looking at some competitors of Nintendo, let's look at the Xbox One. The Xbox One is nearing 8 years old, and it's getting near the end of its life cycle. But one thing's for certain, people have been playing more and more video games as of late. And 8 years is a long time. The Xbox One has been on the market and evolved over time like many other consoles. There was a mid-cycle upgrade, the Xbox One X. I own that, and now it's my son's, and he enjoys it quite a bit. But yeah, definitely benefited from some hardware upgrades, but it's been on the market 8 years. Same with the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4, monstrous sales, a huge library of games. Again, had a mid-cycle upgrade and has been on the market. Going to be coming up here very soon, 8 years as well. And so 8 years, that's a long time, and that's for a true home console. And that's a long time to be on the market. And they're nearing probably the end of their life cycle. They'll probably be on the market maybe another year or two commercially, as new hardware for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. A, it's really expensive, and B, you still can't find it anywhere, even though it's selling well. That is going to impact the market. All right. So going back to the Switch, the Switch recently came out with an OLED model. Some people really disappointed, wanting a true upgrade. That is the question, okay? Is the Switch going to get a true 4K Pro model down the road, or is that going to be the sequel? That only time will tell, because that is going to determine, I think, if it can stay on the market, approximately 9 years. 9 years is a long time. Now let's look at some other hardware. And so the DS, Nintendo's dual screen, went through several evolutions. It was on the market 9 years, and it had several hardware revisions. Had over 150 plus million in sales. That is a monstrous number. Had an amazing library. And, I got several different hardware revisions myself. And, I do think that the Switch possibly could stay on the market that long. 9 years is a long time for a handheld. I think handhelds typically have a smaller life cycle, but, the Switch is a hybrid. And so, we'll see about that. And, the other competitor, another hardware fact about Nintendo is the Nintendo Wii. Now, the Wii had a ton of shovelware, had huge, super strong sales, and then it just kind of fell off a cliff. Now, the Wii was on the market commercially about 7 years. And so, yes, you could still find them around, but by 2013, it was pretty done. And so, the Switch is at currently 92 million sold, 92 plus. And so that has strong sales. I definitely think it's going to surpass the Wii. I don't think it's going to surpass the DS. Only time will tell. All depends on what they do. I do think it still needs a mid-cycle upgrade. Now, the Switch OLED, I look at that more as a replacement, even though they really marketed that as an upgrade. I think it's more of just a revision. The Switch OLED is to me a revision, and it's not the mid-cycle upgrade that I think people are clamoring for. And so we'll see that. I think we'll see a true 4K model of the Switch probably within 2 years. It all depends on sales. You know, if the sales continue to be strong throughout the holidays for the next couple years, you know, as time moves forward, you know, the competitors of the Switch, you know, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, those are going to gain traction and continue to sell. People like having new technology. The sales for those have been very strong, and they'll continue to be competitive moving forward. And eventually they're going to get cheaper. Now, you know, I think the Switch is a different type of device. I think it caters to both family and individuals that grew up with Nintendo. I think it has wide appeal. It has lots of classic games, lots of indie games, and the number one place to play Nintendo's IPs. And so the sales show that you know, they're dominating the sales charts. Animal Crossing, Smash Brothers, Super Mario Odyssey, Zelda Breath of the Wild, you know, Mario Kart. You look at the top sales figures for the Nintendo Switch, it's all Nintendo IP. And so I think that's great. My hat's off to them. You know, we're going to see if it's going to stretch, if it's going to continue to do, you know, have dominating sales moving forward. It just keeps selling, and people love the Switch. For people out there that don't like the Switch, I get that. It may not be for you. Maybe you're a PC user. Maybe you like games on the PlayStation or the Xbox or both. It is just a different device. You know, no, it's not, you know, leading the technology or even having the best graphics. Nintendo really hasn't been that way for a long time. It doesn't have to be. It just has to offer excellent, fun family games, and it appeals to a wide audience. You know, the fan base for Nintendo is truly remarkable. And, you know, there's tons of people out there that's their console that they play on, or handheld or hybrid or whatever you want to call the Switch. And the other thing, too, is that I think that it can probably meet that 9-year cycle. That also means it might be limping at the finish line. Time will tell. I do think, though, eventually they're going to have to announce the successor, which they will, to the Switch. And the big question is it in the same family as the Switch, or is it a true successor playing its own specific software that's going to be exclusive to a Switch 2? Only time will tell. What I do know is that I think the Switch has smashed any expectations people had of it. You know, I was an early doubter of the Switch. I didn't know what to think of it, and it proved me wrong over time. It continued to sell, it continued to dominate, and to be the juggernaut of what it is today. I'm shocked to see the sales. Animal Crossing comes to mind. That just blows me away. My son's favorite game. He plays it all the time, and he loves the new updates of that. And it's funny because, you know, it's game's been out over a year. They haven't been great at doing updates, and then they release a mega update, and it's just back in the news. And it's like almost like Nintendo didn't have to release a new game. They just updated a game that came out a little bit ago, and everybody's happy. I've learned to never rule out Nintendo. And Nintendo never ceases to surprise me, and I think that it's definitely in mid-cycle. I think Nintendo Switch is going to easily hit 9 years. It's going to come down to a couple different things. I do think that there are tons of people out there that would love to see it on the market a long time, and I'm one of them. I definitely think the Switch, if it continues to just offer great games. Now, there's going to be shovelware and other games coming out with any popular console, But I for one am a fan of the Switch. It has made me a believer, and I think it's definitely going to stay on the market. So what do you think? What do you think about this? Do you think that the Switch is going to stay on the market, and is it in its mid-life cycle? Do you think the Switch is going to be on the market 9 years commercially? Comment below, and as always, thank you for coming to my channel. And I love doing these talk videos and talking about Switch and things in the market. Thank you so much for coming. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock. Thank you so much for coming, and you take care.